Hello everyone, my name is Auro and welcome to the second devlog of More to Glory 2, a turn-based gladiator roguelike. In this devlog, I will be creating a map scene similar to Slay the Spire, so let's get into it. Alright, so if you have played More to Glory 1, you know that the basic structure of the gameplay was kind of formulaic in the sense that you have a battle, then you go to town, there's this random event, and then you can do shopping, recruiting, all that stuff, and then it just repeats. But I figured in this sequel I wanted to do something different, and by different I mean different to my game, because what I wanted to add to the game was a map scene similar to that from Slay the Spire. Now if you go to YouTube, you can find a bunch of different tutorials how to make this map scene, and there are even a few ready-made solutions so that you can instantly have a similar map scene from Slay the Spire in your own game. But instead of doing just that and saving some time, I figured that hey, why not make my own solution? So yeah, instead of following a tutorial or getting a ready-made package, I wanted to make it myself from scratch. And actually the main benefit of doing that, why I decided on it, was that if I make it myself my own way, I have a better understanding of how it works, and then I can also customize it. I don't really like the idea of taking a ready-made block of code and then having to try to decipher and analyze it how it actually works, and then maybe I run into an obstacle that I just can't get past, how to customize some feature in it that I don't understand, or there's some technical barrier there. So yeah, I figured that okay, this probably isn't the hardest thing to do, so yeah, I will make it myself. So the first thing I did was add a bunch of dots on the scene, so just neatly arrange rows and columns of dots. Then what I did next was randomize the positions. I mean, it would be kind of boring if all the dots were on the same lines and same columns, so yeah, randomizing is needed. Then the next step was adding lines between the dots, and that was fairly simple. I'm using this line renderer ready-made component in Unity, so yeah, you just input all the coordinates for the dots and it will draw a line for you. But I wasn't really satisfied with a straight line. I mean, the idea I have in my head for how the map looks, I want some curves on that line. After thinking about it a bit, I decided that I wanted to add Bezier curves into my game, but I was kind of having a hard time understanding how to actually create it within the game. I mean, I found some ready-made solutions, but they were always kind of only these editor-only solutions, not in the actual game that could be added to these line renderers. But then I found this nice tutorial from Sebastian Lake. I probably mispronouncing that, but yeah, he had a really nice tutorial for it. I believe his tutorial wasn't for line renderer, but after watching his video it was easy to just look at the code and just adjust it to my own code, and yeah, basically it goes through the coordinates in the line renderer and then just adjust the coordinates so that there's a curve in the line. And actually basically what happens is that there are a bunch of new coordinates added to the line. So yeah, while previously it might have been 3 dots, now there's something 30 dots or something like that to add the actual curve into it. The curves were pretty fun to play around with, but one issue I then had was that by implementing a Bezier curve, the line doesn't actually go through all the dots in my line renderer. So the way it works, the Bezier curve, is that you kind of like have these like handle dots that will like adjust how much curvature there is. But the simple solution to that was that I will just have more dots. So when the lines are created now, it will also generate these like invisible dots that will be used for the curvature of the lines. But yeah, you cannot see them at all, so you don't even know they are there. While there can be some issues with the visuals, I think already the curved line looks really nice and, at least to my eye, much better than the straight direct jagged lines. Then I made it so that it will actually create several lines at the same time. So basically how it works that each line has like these 2 columns of dots that it can randomly pick from. So yeah, I'm not using all the dots for all the lines because then it would be, yeah, they would cross each other and then I would need to add some logic for that. So yeah, I decided that I would just rather have these 2 columns for each line, and when all the like empty dots are removed, then it actually looks pretty random, even though there's like this pretty rigid logic behind the lines. But speaking of crossing lines, my next task was to add these connector lines. So yeah, I don't want to have 3 separate lines going next to each other, but what I actually want is like 3 lines that will also have these connector lines, so that you can kind of like switch your lane depending on what kind of promises and challenges that line holds that you want to get to. I was playing around with a bunch of different variables when it comes to the lines, so trying to find like sweet spot where it makes the end result look visually pleasing, but also avoids all the like downfalls that might come, like crossing lines or being like on top of each other that might look funny in the end. In order to avoid some of the like undesired outcomes with the lines and dots, I added some additional logic to the code. For example, I don't want the dots to be too close to each other, so that's very easy to solve with a distance check between the different dots, at least the dots that are nearby, and just make sure that they are not too close. If they are, just like adjust the position to be further away. I got some pretty funny looking variations by playing around with the different variables, again trying to find the sweet spot, and yeah, there were some additional kind of like safeguards that I had to add to the code to avoid all the like worst offenders. One fairly practical solution I considered was to just have like these safe seed values for the maps, so that by with a specific seed value you would get a pleasing looking map, and maybe I could get around with by having something like maybe 100 different seed values, so that would be a lot of variation and I could be certain that the outcome will look nice. But at the same time, I thought that would be kind of a boring way to handle it, and yeah, I figured that I would just aim to have like these safeguards with the values that okay, if the value is between these two different like min and max values, then the outcome will avoid all the like pitfalls. So yeah, I didn't want to go with the predetermined options with the maps. At this point I was also starting to over-engineer the code a bit. I mean, one note that I had left for myself was that yeah, I was starting to adjust the curvature based on the distance of the line and some very specific situations where the curvature would be different, but yeah, in the end I don't think the player will notice or care about stuff like that, so I told myself okay, yeah, it's better to stop now and just go with what I have, because I think it looks pretty nice for the purpose. And a moment ago I mentioned the seed value, so that is actually very important to have. So the code that I use for randomizing this map actually saves the seed value for the random generator, and the reason why that is important is that if I actually have like saving and loading in the game, I want the map to remain the same after the game is loaded, and similarly if the map scene is left when entering the battle scene, I want the map to remain similar. So here in the video I'm demonstrating that that actually also works now. So yeah, I can save the seed value that was used to create the map and then just use the same seed if I want to create the exact same map. And finally, to make it a bit more pleasing to the eye and also make it a bit closer to the actual end result, I adjust the colors and also change the dot graphics. So yeah, this is by far like not the final visual outlook, but it is closer. So my idea is kind of like that. These are roads that the units will travel and then get to the destination. Maybe these are like towns that the units will visit, and maybe there are some interesting shops to visit in the town, or maybe some interesting events or tournaments or whatnot. So yeah, this is what the end result looks like. So I would love to hear in the comments if you think all the work was worth it or not, if you think the end result looks pleasing or not. Personally, I think it will work very fine for the purpose I'm envisioning it to fulfill. But hey, that was everything I have for this devlog, so leave a like if you liked the video, and yeah, let me know in the comments what you think about what I did, and other than that, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.